back with comedian David Boyle, and I'm quitting alcohol. So Jerry Seinfeld was on the Tim Ferriss podcast. I think it was yesterday, but it's out now and I listened to it, and it is one of the best interviews I've ever heard on stand-up comedy, writing, resilience, hard work. It's fucking great. It made me love Jerry Seinfeld again. I mean, my favorite show of all time is probably Seinfeld, but it's hard to like a billionaire. It's hard not to get annoyed at every single thing that comes out of the fucking mouth of billionaires. But this interview, even if you're not a comedian, it's so fucking good. It's really inspiring because Seinfeld, before he was Seinfeld, obviously was just no one. He was Seinfeld, some scrawny little Jew kid, and he just worked his fucking ass off. He figured it out. He figured out it's all just hard work and resilience. He tells his story on this podcast. Tim Ferriss asked him if there was a particular setback in his life that he remembers, his favorite setback. And Seinfeld tells this story about how he first moved from New York to LA. And he'd only been doing comedy for like 4 years, and he'd worked his way up the ranks in New York. And he was moved out to LA because LA was pretty much the major leagues then. That's where it was all fucking happening. And the place it was really fucking happening was the Comedy Store. The Comedy Store in fucking LA. So he gets into the Comedy Store, he has a gig, he does well, and he's trying to get booked, and he's getting booked maybe like once a week. And so he has a meeting with the infamous owner of the LA Comedy Store, Mitzi Shore. And they go into her office, and she says to a young Seinfeld, "You're the kind of person that needs to be trampled on, and I'm the one who's going to trample on you." She's like, "Even if I have 4 spots open and it's a choice between giving the gigs to you or some other comic, I'm going to give the other comic all 4 because you need to be kicked around." And then Seinfeld got up out of the chair and said, "Well, if for some reason the other comic can't do all 4 gigs, I'm happy to fill in." And he walked out of the Comedy Store and never went back again. Now, as a comedian, I can tell you that is like someone taking your whole entire career away from you in an instant. The Comedy Store, especially then, I think it was the late 70s, early 80s, was the biggest place in the world. That was the major leagues. That was how you got on Johnny Carson. That's how you fucking made your career, through the Comedy Store. And to hear that as a young up-and-coming comedian, that can literally fucking destroy you. It would have destroyed me. It'd be like someone saying to a young basketballer, "You can play basketball, but you're never going to be playing in the NBA. Not because you're not good enough, because I said. Now go play some fucking basketball in Turkey." And here is the main difference between someone like me and Seinfeld. Seinfeld used that as motivation. He's like, "Fuck that bitch. I'm going to show that bitch what I'm made of." And he's like, after that, he was playing like discos to 8 people and shit like that. But he said he started really writing. Before that incident with Mitzi Shore, he was writing 3 days a week. And he's like, after that, he was 7 days a week writer. And he just wrote himself out of it. And he eventually got on Johnny Carson. I don't know how the fuck he did that. Johnny Carson were mainly booking people through the Comedy Store, and he wasn't allowed on. So I don't know how the fuck he managed that. But that is fucking resilience. Whereas someone like me, if Mitzi Shore had sat me down and said that to my face when I was that young, I would have used that as fuel to go on a fucking 10-year bender. Just a fucking bitter, cocaine-fueled bender. Which would have culminated in me a decade later going into the Comedy Store and just shooting it up and murdering her execution style high on cocaine. It would not have even struck me to try and write more. Write more? What for? I'm not allowed on at the fucking Comedy Store. If I can't get on at the Comedy Store, what can I do? You can make Seinfeld. That's what you can do. It definitely wouldn't have struck me. I wouldn't have had the fucking tools. The coping tools to even know how to process that. Like I could now, but when I was younger, no fucking way. I'll tell you a little story. I'll tell you a little tale about a young baseballer named David Boyle. So when I was like 12 or 13, I was playing baseball and I made the Australian baseball team to play a tournament against Japan and the USA. I made the last 24 players, so they split the last 24 players into Australia green and Australia gold. And out of those 24 players, they were going to choose 12 of the best players to go play a tournament in Japan the following year. And I was a decent baseball player when I was younger. I didn't really give that much of a fuck. I thought it was kind of boring, but fuck me, I wanted to go to Japan. So when I got selected for the tryouts, I really fucking tried. And I dominated all the tryouts. I made the last 24 easily. And then the tournament rolls around. We're playing the Japanese in the US. And I'm having a fucking tournament and a half. I'm doing fucking shit I didn't even know I could do. If I wasn't the best player at that tournament, I was fucking very close. I was hitting home runs. I was hitting doubles. I was taking fucking flying outfield catches. I was doing it all. The whole entire fucking tournament ended on my double play. Every single player from all countries were in the stadium, and the final play was a double play I made. I was playing third base, and this Japanese kid fucking gunned it, and I took a diving catch, and just instinctually, I gunned it back to first base. Even though all my fucking coaches were telling me to throw it to second base, they didn't know what the fuck was going on. But I gunned it to first, and the kid hadn't touched back up, so I rolled a double play. That's the end of the tournament. And like parents were coming up to me and saying, "You're definitely going to make the team. You're definitely going to make the team." I'm like, yes, I am definitely going to make the team. Thank you very much. So I'm pretty fucking confident. But there is a subplot to this story. The year before, a kid at my club, Stevie Vasaka, a little fucking redheaded runt with a rat's tail. He made the final 12, but he was a little redheaded runt with a rat's tail, and he was from a poor family, and his parents couldn't afford to send him to Japan. So they had to cut him from the team, replace him with some shit rich kid, and there was a big controversy and all that sort of shit, and it was kind of embarrassing for everyone involved. So, my house, which was an absolute fucking piece of shit shack, with our fence on the ground, the grass never getting mowed, dog chained to the thing like a fucking junkyard dog. My house was on the drive to the baseball ground where the tryouts were all happening. So it was very obvious I was poor, and it was very obvious my parents weren't going to be able to afford to send me to Japan. So the final cut comes around. I don't make the team. I am shattered. Like, shattered. I remember I just bawled my fucking eyes out. I played football that day, and a few of the kids in the footy team I was playing with also played baseball as well. And they're like, "I can't believe you didn't make it." Their parents were even coming up to me and saying, "I can't believe you didn't make it." I was shattered. I felt fucking wronged. There was literally nothing else I could have done more to get into that fucking team, and I still didn't fucking make it. And instead of being like Michael Jordan, who got cut from his high school basketball team, and using that as fuel to win 6 championship rings, I gave up. I just gave up. I pretty much stopped trying in everything from that day. I gave up completely. My spirit was broken. And instead of using it as fuel to win 6 rings, I used it as fuel to go on a fucking 20-year bender, leaving a wake of destruction and fucking mayhem behind me. It's fucking funny how these events can change your whole entire fucking life. Like, that was a pivotal moment in my life. I didn't process that until after I was 30, when I first started thinking, why have things gone so terribly wrong? Obviously, that wasn't the only reason I was fucked up, but it didn't fucking help. Let's put it that way. And I'll just add a final side note to that story. In the last few days of that tournament, we all went to Phillip Island, where the Penguins are, to take the Japanese and the American fucking players to go see the Penguins. And we all went up in a bus. And on the way back in the bus, the supposed star pitcher was sitting behind me, and he kept on fucking tapping my head and annoying me. And I warned him twice. I said, if you fucking tap my head again, you're going to pay for it. So he tapped my head again and I turned around, leant over the back of my chair and smashed him directly in the fucking face. And he didn't stop crying for about 45 minutes. So that probably didn't help my cause either. I always block that incident out when I'm thinking about that story, about how hard done by I was. I always forget I did punch that guy in the face on the bus when we were seeing the Penguins. Maybe it wasn't just a socio-economic fucking decision. Maybe they were like, this cunt's punching kids on the bus. What's he going to do on the plane? Did we really need the services of this poor rat kid on our team that badly? I don't think so. Cut him. All right, that's it for me tonight. Go listen to that Seinfeld Tim Ferriss podcast. It's great. All right, see you the fuck later.